Hey, so I thought in this video I'd go over modulating effects parameters on the Deepmind 12. So I recently found out that in the modulation destinations, you actually have a section where you can select any of the parameters from the various different effects as modulation destinations. So for example, you can have an LFO controlling the delay time or any other parameter of any effect, which is really quite powerful. So I thought I would go over how to do that here. So I have a basic dry sound, nothing special. So let's go over to the effects section. Again, I'm going to keep the serial routing here and I'm going to leave it as a send. Just to demonstrate the concept, let's just select a basic delay. So I'm going to select the T-ray delay, which is based on oil cans. And that's the basic sound. So in order to access the actual parameters of the effect, you keep cycling this effect button here. And depending on what you have selected here, it'll go through the various menus. So if I tap it now I'm in the T-ray delay editing section. And I have these 5 different parameters I can choose from: mix, delay, sustain, wobble, and tone. And for example, if I try to change the delay time here, so of course I can change these parameters by hand in this menu, but wouldn't it be cool if you can assign any LFO or envelope or sequencer or aftertouch or any of the sources to control this parameter for you? So the way you do that is, let's say we wanted LFO to control this delay time. So we go over to our mod matrix here. I'm going to select LFO1 as my source. And destination, if you go all the way to the end, you have the section with effects. So you can also control the level of the 4 effects. But the really cool thing is that you can select the parameters of the effects as well. So depending on what effect you have selected, these destinations will dynamically adjust. So for example, now I have in my effects 1 slot, I have that T-ray delay, which has those 5 parameters. So you can see my destination here as FX1, mix, delay, sustain, wobble, and tone. So it's automatically updated the name of the destinations to match the parameters of what is currently selected in FX1. So as a destination, I can choose, for example, the delay time. And now I have LFO1 as my source. I can increase the depth. Now you can hear that LFO1 is modulating the delay time of the delay. And of course you can change the waveform of the LFO, you can change the rate. So let me quickly turn my sound into more of a pluck. And of course you can adjust the modulation depth so it's not as extreme. So that's really cool because you can basically assign, there are a ton of really cool effects in the synth and they all have a bunch of interesting parameters. And this opens up a whole different category of modulation possibilities. So as an example, let's select another effect, for example, a phaser. Now let me turn my patch into more of a pad, which is more appropriate for a phaser. And now if I cycle through, I have my phaser parameters. So for example, the speed of the phaser. So let's say I wanted to modulate the speed of the phaser with the second LFO, for example. Same procedure, I can go choose LFO2 as my source. And if I go to the end of my effects, and if you didn't see what I just did there, basically when you're selecting parameters here, you can either use this as fine-tuning or this as kind of broad strokes. So one shortcut to get to the effects, instead of scrolling through this wheel forever, you can just kind of swipe all the way to the end, and then you know you're in kind of general area where the effects live. And as you can see, that now we've unlocked this FX2 section, and all the parameters of the phaser are automatically available here. So we have speed, depth. So I'm going to assign LFO2 as my source. And finally, let's add another effect, maybe a reverb. So it would be interesting if we assign the mix parameter. So we can bring the reverb in and out. So I'm gonna assign the control sequencer to control the mix amount of the reverb, which could be quite interesting. So again, I'm gonna go to my control sequencer setting here. I'm gonna enable it, set it to 16th notes, maybe a length of 4 for now. I'm gonna make it loop indefinitely. And then I'm just going to assign some various parameters. And basically this will be the level of the mix of the reverb. And I'm going to increase the tempo here from the ARP settings to something more reasonable, like 103. And now that I have my sequencer configured, I can go back to my mod matrix and pick sequencer or control sequencer from my source. And again, I can scroll all the way to the end, and now you can see I have FX3 is available. And the last parameter is the mix of the effects of the reverb, basically. So I can increase that. And now if I go back to my sequencer controls, this will be the value of the reverb mix. And I can go back and lower the tempo a little bit. And of course we can make the pattern longer and go back and edit those steps. So I'm going to end it there. Hopefully that gives you a rough idea of the kinds of things you can modulate in terms of the effects. I'm kind of surprised that I found this out only later. It's a really quite powerful feature, actually. And it really, the more I use this synth, the more I realize that the effects are almost part of the synthesis engine here and shouldn't be thought of as an afterthought of just adding effects later like you would a normal synth. I really feel like they're kind of part of the core synthesis tools you have here. So don't restrict yourself to just thinking about oscillator and filter in a kind of traditional vintage synth architecture, but these effects really go a long way to accent and be part of the actual core sound. And I've obviously only just scratched the surface here. So you have 8 mod destinations or 8 mod matrix slots, and you can pick up to 4 effects, and each effect could have up to, I don't know, 11 or 12 parameters. And you can modulate all of those with any of the possible sources, which really opens up a whole new world of modulation and synthesis possibilities. Anyways, hopefully this was useful. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this with the Deepmind, and be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one. See you guys later.